What is like the one thing you're hoping people walk away with?
Yeah, that's good. Maybe to just see and think for a minute about how Christian community works. Like, if I've not been a part of a church community or a Christian community, meaning important, meaningful relationships in my life, places that I invest, people I invest in, if that's all kind of new to me, being in a Christian circle, how should I think about it?
Welcome to the Four Leg Norman podcast. Whether you're someone who's been in the church community for a while, or maybe you're someone who's never stepped foot in a Christian community, today we're going to be talking about 3 key activities that make up what it's like to be a part of a Christian community, so you don't want to miss out on this conversation. We hope you've been enjoying these episodes, and so before we get started, can I ask you for one small favor if you have been enjoying them? If you're watching on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts and you haven't subscribed or followed yet, take a second, click that button. When you subscribe, you help us to share meaningful stories, resources, and conversations with more listeners searching for healing, connection, and purpose. Thanks for being a part of what God's doing here. Now let's tune in to today's episode. All right. We're jumping back into talking about the calling. We're going to talk about a different aspect of this calling. And if you're new to this podcast, when I'm referring to the calling, that is the sermon series we're in at our church at this time. And our church is called Lake Norman Baptist, and we're a church that exists to bring healing, connection, and purpose to people all around Lake Norman. And so we're kicking off the new year with this series of what are we called to do? A lot of us are thinking about what do we want to do in the new year? What are some of the things we want to accomplish? So we want to look at what God and what Jesus is calling us to do heading into this new year. So
today, I think it'd be helpful for us to think about the kinds of opportunities that we take advantage of as we're pursuing that calling that Jesus is teaching and training. We're seeing it through the Gospel of Luke. In the sermon this week, we look at really Jesus' definition of love. Someone comes to him and he says to Jesus, "Hey, Jesus, how can I inherit eternal life?" And Jesus says, "Well, what does the law say?" Speaking of the Old Testament. And this person says, "Well, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself." And Jesus said, "Yeah, you're right. Do that, and you will live." Speaking to just the transforming work of faith and trust in Jesus, becoming a child of God. And so then he follows this really definition of love with 2 parables and a real life situation that I think bring to light for us really 3 dimensions of a call to love. So last week we talked about the call to go. This week in the sermon, it's a call to love. So I'm not going to repeat the sermon, but that's what's there. If you're interested in that, click the link, watch it on YouTube. But flowing out of that, I think each of these dimensions of love highlight opportunities that we have in the church or in other Christian communities to express love to one another, to express love to God, to learn and grow in it, to be apprenticed by Jesus in it. But I think the challenge is most of us, if not all of us, tend to really, go down one lane or another of these different expressions of love rather than kind of a balanced experience of all the facets of what it means to love in Christian communities. So 3 things, I'll name them, and then I just love to kind of chat about how that lands on you and what it shows up like in Christian communities. So we have opportunities for serving, we have opportunities for learning, and we have opportunities for depending on others, having our needs met by others in Christian community. Serving, learning, depending. And whether you're someone who's part of a Christian community, part of a church, I think it's healthy to kind of think about, all right, what opportunities do I usually take advantage of?
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people serve a lot. A lot of people sign up for a lot of Bible studies, for learning. And some folks are not shy about expressing their needs and receiving help from others. If you're outside the church or a Christian community, wondering what life is like inside one of these, if you're thinking about joining a church or visiting a church or um, going from kind of sticking your toe in the water to really committing and being an active part of a local church, then I think these are three things that are really helpful to think about,
Hmm.
um, and can also be three doorways in, three pathways into Christian community. All three are good things, but all three need the others in order to be complete and
Hmm.
in balance. So, make sense?
Yes. Yeah. I'm
Okay,
tracking with you.
tracking.
Yeah.
Good. All right, so let's start with serving.
Okay.
There's a lot of people in the church, and we need these people. Hopefully, you and I are among these people
Yep.
who have a heart to serve. So, in churches, we have a lot of serving opportunities. Inside the walls of a church, out in the community, opportunities to give of our time
Hmm.
and our talents to good work that expresses and shows and carries the love of
Yeah.
Jesus.
Should we
Um,
maybe name a couple just in case people are unfamiliar? Like, just give them
Absolutely.
an
Yeah.
idea.
Name a few, and then I can add to the list.
Yeah, so within the church, you have opportunities to serve in student ministry. So that's working with teenagers, like middle high school students.
Yeah.
You have opportunities to serve in kids ministry. So you know, babies all the way up through
Yeah.
fifth grade. And the roles vary as far as what you
Right.
can do. But I'm just
Yep.
speaking in generalities. You can serve with helping lead worship, be a part of the
Got
band
musical
or
gifts or
the
technical gifts.
Yep,
Yep.
yep. Yeah, so production would be the backside of that. If you wanna work a camera or run sound or something like
Mhm.
that, there's opportunities there. There's opportunities to serve as a greeter,
Mhm.
on Sunday mornings and just make new people feel
Yeah,
welcome and
people skills, that's a
help
good
them get
place to
where they're
go.
going, yeah. Um some of the opportunities out in the community are serving with our Bread of Life ministry. They gather groceries from local stores around the
Yeah.
area and then distribute it to partners in the community that are getting it to people who need that assistance. You can serve it with Feed the Hunger, which is another ministry we partner with. It's a meal packing ministry that packs about 40 bags in a box. Each bag makes up 6 meals, and they ship it all over the world.
Yeah.
They're shipping it to, the Ukraine, to Moldova, to, was it Sri Lanka recently, I
Bangladesh is
think?
one of their big ones I
Bangladesh,
know, but
yeah.
they got places all around the world.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's going all over the place, including, some spots in the United States. We partner with organizations like, um Community Pregnancy Center, Charlotte Rescue Mission, Angels and Sparrows, and we have people who
Yeah.
serve with them on a regular basis. So there's all
Yeah.
kinds
And
of
that's just
different.
our church.
That's just ours,
Yeah, I
yeah.
mean, the churches everywhere, different Christian
Right.
organizations serving all kinds of similar
Yeah.
ways. I mean, disaster relief, like Hurricane Helene here in North Carolina has been a big one this last year or so.
Hmm.
So yeah, lots of opportunity to serve, and I
Yeah.
appreciate you naming several of those things. Um, and I think those who have a heart to serve are expressing love, and so that's an important thing. We need that.
Hmm.
But I think one of the realities, one of the challenges in Christian community, especially for people who have a real heart to serve, um, there are people, and I can think of some, who are always willing to serve,
Hmm.
but they don't really take advantage of other other opportunities within the church that are important as well for learning and for dependence, having
Yep.
having needs met. And so when we're always pouring out, the challenge is we need to be fed.
Hmm.
We need some inputs
Yeah.
to go with our outputs.
Hmm.
And I can think of any number of reasons why um, sometimes we get prone to, we just want to give. We want to be on the giving end, the serving end, not so much the receiving end.
Hmm.
Um, and I think, there's a lot we could probably unpack and consider behind that. But sometimes just thinking about my own mindset, I feel more empowered when I'm serving. Like, I don't want to be needy,
Hmm.
right? Um, or take the time. It doesn't feel like it's valuable enough use of my time to sit and learn and receive, sign up for another Bible study or invest in my marriage by being a part of a group or something that's focusing on that. Um, I'd rather, it feels better, feels safer in some ways to to serve
Mhm.
than to open myself up to
Yeah.
an area where I may need to really learn
Mhm.
and grow.
Mhm.
So while serving is critical and has to happen, and we need to serve others, it shouldn't be something that we actually guard ourselves off from receiving and learning in some areas that we might need to learn.
Mhm.
Or um, if there are some real needs that we're carrying, um, we shouldn't allow our pride to get in the way of dependence and allowing others to meet our needs. It's easy to serve a lot in order to kind of give a good impression of
Yeah.
how well I'm doing right now, which I think one of the pieces in Luke that we look at in the sermon is a story of Mary and Martha, these two sisters who were hosting Jesus in their home. And Martha was the sort of prototype of, we'll call it an overserver.
Mhm.
And she's just running around doing all these extra things. And, you know, she's all frustrated with her sister Mary. And she's like, Jesus, tell Mary to help me. And Jesus doesn't do that. He says, Martha, you're all upset about a lot of things, but only a few things are needed. He's like, I don't need you to do all of this. You don't need to do everything. You don't need to impress me. You can,
Yeah.
the better choice is actually what Mary's doing.
Yeah.
She's learning. And that's not to say that serving isn't important, but I think it does shine a light on when that becomes the only thing
Mhm.
and it trumps the other sort of opportunities that we have in the community of Jesus. Well, that's going to be something that's out of balance.
Yeah. I think there's also a powerful message about hospitality in there. Like when we think about if we're gonna host somebody, whether it's at our home or
Mm-hmm.
if somebody's doing something here at the church and they're hosting, a lot of times we feel this pressure of like, well, I got to make sure like everything's ready,
Yeah.
everything's perfect. I got to clean up immediately after, make sure everybody's got what they need, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like, well, the whole point of why you're hosting is so you can spend time with these people. But
Mm-hmm.
if you spend all the time doing all the things, then you're missing out on
Yeah.
what's the most important thing, and that can apply to serving as well. Like, you can spend a lot of time doing a lot of good things, but what relational connection are you missing out on by filling up your whole calendar with, a million opportunities to
Mm-hmm.
serve? Um, but yeah, it just hit me as you were explaining that story, like, yeah, Martha's probably running around because she wants to be a good host,
Yeah.
and Mary's like, "Well, we have Jesus here. Let me
Yeah.
let me
He's
spend time with
here.
you." Yeah.
Don't let him sit by himself in the living room while we're
Yeah.
running around in the kitchen.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I think it gets to like, what's our heart? Like what to love? This is a section where Jesus is defining love and sort of putting some color on what it means to love God and love neighbor. Um, I think what we see in the Mary Martha story, it's a blessing to Jesus
Mhm.
that Mary sat and listened and connected with him. And I think the goal of hospitality should be connection,
Mhm.
right? To bless others rather than to impress others.
Mhm.
So if you're coming over to my house, and I want it to be just perfect everywhere for you
Yeah.
to the exclusion of actually talking to you,
Mhm.
well, that's that's not very hospitable.
Yeah.
Um, that's not to say we shouldn't try to create environments
Right.
that are pleasant to be in, but it's for the purpose of blessing the people that we're welcoming into our
Right.
space.
Mhm.
Um, and so I think, yeah, I think there's this proper heart behind good, necessary service
Mhm.
that makes it a true blessing.
Yeah, and I think in Christian communities, you have people who maybe are on the more introverted side and would much rather sign up to do some service opportunity
Yeah.
so that they don't have to sit down and talk with people, you know?
Yeah.
They would love to sit in run the live stream back in a room by themselves,
Yeah.
or whatever
Yeah.
opportunities there are
Yeah.
where you're just kind of by yourself
Yeah.
doing a thing. And so, yeah, to your point,
Yeah.
we all are prone to
Yeah.
do one at the expense
Yeah.
of another.
And at risk of stereotyping, dare I say, men tend to be
Yeah,
more, if we could just do something, give me a hammer to swing or,
Mhm.
a task to do,
Mhm.
that's more of a comfort zone than, sit
Yeah.
and be a part of a group where we're talking about
Mhm.
things and
Yeah.
exposing ourselves a little bit. So
Mhm.
that's serving, and we can come back to it and kind of mix things up. But learning is another opportunity. So every Christian circle, every church has
Mhm.
various opportunities for learning and growth. Like I said earlier, from Bible study to things like parenting or marriage
Mhm.
or, you know, great habits, whatever it might be. It kind of runs the gamut, right?
Mhm.
Between Bible study and just living,
Mhm.
Christian living as a follower of Jesus. Groups form around this, classes form around this, different training opportunities, form around this. So there's always no shortage of opportunities. I mean, here at our church in a few weeks, we're encouraging people to find your people to get in a group.
Mhm.
And every one of those groups has some kind of learning. Most of the groups have some kind of learning involved in them. And we need that,
Mhm.
right? And those are good, healthy things. And our hope is that everybody would find their place in at least one group where we're learning and
Mhm.
growing. But just like there are some people who are all the time serving and
Mhm.
never really learning, there's another type of person who is all the time learning. They're signing up for groups all the time. They might be
Yeah.
in 3 or 4 different groups, um, not really doing much serving,
Mhm.
not really giving back
Yeah.
anywhere, and also not really willing to be helped by others. No real sense of dependence.
Yeah.
And I think these tend to be, and I could put myself in this category as well, like idea people. Like we love to talk about, the ideas in the Bible, and we could debate some interpretations of things,
Mhm.
um, or we just see ourselves as kind of a low view of our own knowledge. Like I need to, I don't really know anything. I got to learn a
Yeah.
lot. I mean,
Mhm.
fine. I mean, those aren't bad things, but I think
Mhm.
there are reasons that some people gravitate toward learning, um, and not so much serving,
Yeah.
and not so much opening oneself up to be,
Be
dependent
Yeah.
relationally
Or
on
vulnerable.
others. Vulnerable. There you
Yeah.
go. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good word for it.
Mhm. Yeah, I think, with both the serving category and the desire to just learn, I th everything we're talking about is a good thing,
All good things.
but sometimes the why we gravitate towards
Yeah.
like, the people that gravitate towards serving may be like, "Well, this feels like I actually accomplished something.
Yeah.
Like, I came here, I did this thing, it's done. I can
Yeah.
check the
Yeah.
box."
And I would say even more so than that. So I don't want you to
Yeah,
lose your
yeah,
train
yeah.
of thought, but like when you read the parable of the Good Samaritan, which is
Mhm,
the first section of the part of Luke that we're talking about,
mhm,
you come away going, that's what I need to be doing all the time.
mhm.
Because you have these two religious leaders that walk right on by this
Yeah.
person who was, so if you don't know the story, of
Mhm,
the Good Samaritan, Jesus tells this story of a man going on a journey. He gets jumped by some robbers. They beat him up, leave him for dead on the side of the road. And here comes a priest, a religious man.
mhm,
And surely he's going to help the person that was beat up and left for dead. But no, he crosses over to the other side of the road and passes by. He goes away from the need, not to the need. Another religious leader, a Levite, comes by, same thing. And then a Samaritan comes by, who there was all this conflict between the Jews and the Samaritans. So here's Jesus talking to a Jewish audience that, hey, your best and brightest did not
mhm,
they did not serve. They did not show love by serving the one in need. But here comes a Samaritan who's your sworn enemy. You hate the Samaritans, but it's the Samaritan who does the right thing, who has mercy, takes care of this
mhm,
person who was beat up and make sure that they get taken care of. And so that's the Good Samaritan. And the lesson there is, which one was the neighbor? Which one
mhm.
showed love? And it's obviously the Samaritan because he showed mercy. And you read that and you go, well, obviously serving,
Mhm.
that's the thing that we need to be doing primarily, to going toward people in need. So back to what you said, this is a good thing. I think it's more than just a good thing. It's a
Yeah.
great thing. It's a
Mhm.
commanded thing.
Mhm.
And yet, out of balance, it's not truly the only thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think same on the learning side.
Yeah.
You know, people who maybe are drawn to serving over environments where they're learning, it's because of that. Like, I feel like I actually accomplished something. And if you're not an idea person, you don't like talking about a bunch of things and never
Yeah.
really like landing anywhere,
Yeah.
and you leave after a hour-long small group and you're like, what did actually happen? What did we accomplish,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
So
Some people just don't want to be in meetings.
yeah,
They want to be
right.
out doing something.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
But I also think with the learning, the people that are more drawn to that is because it almost the same motive, just in a different way. Like, it
Yeah.
makes us feel like we've accomplished something.
Yeah.
Like, learning gives us that feeling of like, I'm doing something worthwhile.
Yeah.
And so there's different reasons why each of us are drawn, you know, to these different categories, but I think the motives can be good and it still be incomplete.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you're just constantly serving, you can get to a point where you burn yourself out,
Mm-hmm.
and you just have nothing. Like, your
Yeah.
cup's empty and there's
Yeah.
nothing more
All
to,
outputs, no inputs.
yeah, nothing more
Yeah.
to give. But at the same end, if you're just learning, I
Yeah.
feel like the danger is you're going to get puffed up with pride.
Yeah.
And it's going to keep you from
Yeah.
loving well and serving and
Yeah.
giving what you've learned away to
Yeah.
others.
All inputs, no outputs.
Yep.
Yeah. You feel full, but to others, you look bloated.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's a good way.
I just came up just now, right here on the podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. You said they're good things. They're not sufficient things. They're not complete.
Not
Yeah. I
complete,
think that's a good way to say it. They're good. They're not complete. They're necessary, but not sufficient
Mhm.
in and of themselves. They need the serving and the learning needs to balance each other. And I think, that can be at the same time, like in any season of life, we might be serving somewhere on a regular basis on one of the different teams, like you talked about. Maybe we serve on a Sunday morning as a part of the worship experience at the church, and we might be in a class or a group or something on a Tuesday night or Sunday night or some other time where we're in a community group where we have sort of shared inputs. That might be one thing. I think another way is like in different seasons. Like there are seasons where I'm really serving a lot in this season of giving a lot of my time to doing this thing. That becomes primary for a season. And maybe in the next season, I'm going to put a priority on some learning.
Yeah.
So, I think there's various different ways to do it. I don't think there's a formula for how to kind of find this balance. But then there's also this third piece of dependence, of depending on one another, of being vulnerable, because Christian community, the calling that Jesus has for us, is not to be a collection of individuals who are self-sustaining. It's to really become members of one body, which is one of the biblical analogies for it, which means we don't have everything we need all the time, and we're not supposed to. And I think part of the humility of being a part of a Christian community is being willing to let people know when we have needs, whether that's an emotional need, like we're going through a loss of a loved one and we're really struggling with it. Instead of trying to hold it all together, like share that with somebody, ask for help, seek some support. There's a lot of groups and ministries for support in a community. There's also just like financial needs. Like you come into a financial hardship and you're just not able to make it. I mean, that's a hard one for a lot of people to have the humility to ask for help, or to receive help if we're close enough to somebody and they know we have a need that we haven't even asked for. I think we need to be willing to receive help, and sometimes, that's a shot to our pride. Sometimes we can be too proud to seek help, but that's part of being in Christian community. And if we only allow ourselves to be a self-sustaining individual, then we're missing something. We're missing the opportunity for someone else to serve, show mercy, to be the good Samaritan toward us. None of who wants to be the beat up person on the side of the road that's dying. We don't want to think of ourselves that way. But sometimes mean, that's a dramatic metaphor, but, sometimes we have needs, and we might be the opportunity for someone else to be that good Samaritan in
Mhm.
in our life. Um, I mean, the examples could be, all over the place, but I think coming with a dependence, is part of being in Christian community.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like, not to pick favorites of this episode, that's probably the one that, um, over the past couple years I've learned is just so important. And I think it's actually found through all 3 of these categories we're talking about, but, um, in the letter to the Corinthians, so the church in Corinth, Paul tells them this whole spiel about all this stuff that's happened to him, and, he says, "God's power is made perfect in my weakness.
Mhm.
Therefore, I will boast about my weaknesses." And it's to have a healthy relationship to serving, we have to acknowledge that we can't just pour out constantly and never put anything in.
Yeah. Or allow
And
others, to
yeah,
help pour in.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to have the humility to say I need the help of other people. And
Mhm.
um same goes for learning. We have to acknowledge that we're never going to know everything there is to know. And if we spend all of our time trying to do that, we're missing out on so much more that God has for us. And this concept of vulnerability, I think, can take place in all these different atmospheres that we're talking about. But in Western culture and in the American church, it's become so normalized to talk about like our individual relationship with God.
Mhm.
And so I do feel like we're prone to slide into this kind of I'm
Yeah.
self-sustaining
Yeah.
on my own.
Yeah.
And that is not at all what the scriptures teach.
Yeah. It's super countercultural,
Yeah.
especially in the American West,
Yes.
because we're a very individualistic
Mhm.
culture.
Mhm.
I think that's our starting point.
Yeah.
So we have a gap to make up in terms of understanding concepts of community
Yep.
as we learn what it means to be in Christian
Yeah.
community.
We want to live very private lives. We want to have fenced in backyards. We want to just keep to
Yeah.
ourselves. It's like a tribal kind of mentality. And that's,
Mhm.
um, the scriptures just
Yeah.
don't teach that.
Yeah.
Like, from the beginning, the Bible makes it clear that we're created for a relationship, and that it's not good for us to be alone. That's actually the
Yeah.
first problem in scripture is not sin, it's that we're not meant to be
Adam's
alone.
aloneness.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and, man, you just look at story after story after story after story in scripture that points us to our need for relationship, and we're told we're created in the image of God, and He Himself exists in relationship with the
Yeah.
Trinity, and I
Yeah.
don't wanna get into all the
Another podcast.
yeah, all the ins and outs of
The
that.
Trinity coming
Of the
soon.
Trinity, yeah. But Father, Son, Holy Spirit were there at creation, and they say, "Let us make man in our image."
Yeah.
And so we're made in this image of God that exists in relationship. And so when we choose to isolate, or we don't do anything about our feeling lonely and alone,
Mhm.
we're very imperfectly carrying about the image of God with
Yeah.
us. And I
Yeah.
think just the importance of relationships in my life, I've come to find that depending on other people, boasting about my weaknesses and having that vulnerability and saying, "Hey, this is where I'm messing up. This
Mhm.
is what I'm struggling with. This is what I'm fighting on a day-to-day basis with people I trust who are Christians who love me." And being able to receive advice from them, receive wisdom from them, receive prayer from them, just just voicing my weakness,
Yeah.
I've felt God bring healing into my
Yeah.
life. And it does take putting yourself out there, and it takes a dependence
Yeah.
on the people around you and on God to
Yeah.
know that if you put yourself out there like that, He's not gonna
Yeah.
leave you just
Yeah.
out to dry.
And that's where it's rooted in the text that we're at, in the sermon this
Mhm.
week in Luke 11. It's the dependence on God.
Mhm.
And it's, hey, ask,
Yeah.
seek, knock.
Mhm.
If earthly parents know how to give good gifts to their children, God infinitely more. So he's going to give you what you need. In that context, ultimately, the Holy Spirit, his Spirit in you, in us, to lead us, to guide us, to meet our needs, to provide for us. And I think it comes through other people most of the time.
Yeah.
I think there is a downside to this, though, just like all the others. If there is a type of person in Christian community that's kind of, this is the main lane they're in, is all the time dependent, and having a need, and sort of mooching the system, if you will, and not to shame anyone for exercising that good practice, like we've been talking about. But I think there is a call for all of us, not just to be receivers, but to engage, to give back. It's not, the church community is not a charity.
Yeah.
It includes charity, which the classic word for love, an not ancient, but an old world word for love was charity. But to treat the Christian community like a charity, like your own personal charity, is missing the point as well.
Right.
And it does happen.
Yeah.
And so I think kind of there again, we can fall into one of these lanes, and without the others, it becomes imbalanced and unhealthy. But also, and speaking to somebody outside the Christian community, or kind of exploring maybe the Christian community for the first time, wondering how do you break in? Because I think that's a challenge too. Is like, how do I get into this club?
Yeah.
Where do I start? I think that's a very real question. Funny anecdote. Years ago, I was in a conversation with somebody who was, I was up in Illinois, it's the church I was serving there, and this is one of the other staff people. And we were talking about just the invitation as a church to invite newcomers that aren't familiar with church. And every church, I mean, if every church wants people from the community to come in and be, maybe not every church, but healthy churches want other people to join their community. They want to grow. They want to reach more people. And so we were talking about how to do this. And this other staff person was talking about a conversation they were having with somebody that they didn't know. And they were talking about how to go to church. And this person asked a very sincere question, because they had no church background, hadn't been to church before. And they were like, well, how do you go to church? And my friend was like, what do you mean? How do you go to church? And this person was like, well, like, I know how to go to the doctor. You make an appointment, and then you show up for your appointment at the doctor. I know how to go to a movie. You buy a ticket and you show up at the showtime at the movie. How do you go to church?
Yeah.
And, my friend and all of us who they were, she was sharing this story, we're all just like, what? How could they not know how to go to church? And it was just this huge eye-opening moment, because for us, it's just so obvious. I mean, anybody could show up at church at any time. And we think that's obvious to everybody, but it's not. So if you're somebody who's asking that question sincerely, how do I plug in? Or another experience is like someone could show up for church services and they're, listening, participating, but how do I take a next step? Like, what is that? What is that for me? And we try to make that obvious and easy around here, but I think thinking in these three categories, any of these three is a great first engagement.
Yeah.
Depending on where somebody is. Like, hey, if you got something to give and you got time, sign up for a session to come pack some food and make a difference in the world. You're going to be around other people that are kind of in this environment. You're rubbing shoulders for a couple hours. You might meet somebody new. You got a chance to talk to somebody in leadership at the church and, begin to take some steps. So serving is a great pathway in to Christian community. Same with learning. A class is offered on parenting and you've got kids and you're trying to figure it out. You need to learn and grow and find some, camaraderie with others who are also in that same boat with you. And you see a course offered, well, sign up for that and show up. Like, that's a great entry into Christian community. And then same thing, if you just got a need and nobody to meet that need,
Mm-hmm.
that might be the first entry in, is um, coming and sharing that need in an appropriate way, and letting that need be known.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think these three things are healthy and helpful to think about for those that are within a
Yeah.
Christian community, but they're also important facets that
Mm-hmm.
can all be a first step.
Yeah.
Should that be the only step? No.
Mm-hmm.
You take that first step in, whatever it is. Ultimately, over time, we want to balance it out with the other three. So serving, learning, depending, all three are facets of giving and receiving the love of Jesus that exists within a Christian community.
Yeah. Even as we're talking about it, I am having such a hard time like trying to separate them because they
They do
overlap
happen
so
together.
much.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
yes, there's so much overlap. But as you were talking about, depending again, I want to just clarify for all of us. My mind at first went to like physical or financial or
Hmm. Hmm.
some need along that
Which is
category,
part of it.
which
Yeah.
is part of it. But I think when you're talking about people kind of taking advantage of the system, I go to people who are just constantly consuming the learning
Yeah.
as they're
Kind
depending
of
on the
mooching the
church.
system in that way
They're
too.
depending on the church to
Yeah.
learn something, but it just
Yeah.
ends there,
Yeah.
like I think that's a real thing too.
Yeah.
And that's why, yeah, we at our church, we are constantly encouraging people to take a next step
Yeah.
and to not just stay where you're at, because we recognize how all of these things interconnect and how they play off of each other. And um, that's ultimately what we're after, is
Yeah.
that completeness
Yeah.
that Jesus offers. And we saw it most clearly in him through the life that he lived, through the death that he died, and him rising again, giving us hope for that new complete life
Yeah.
in him as we do the things that he did.
Yeah.
And this chapter is an extension of him trying to train us up to do that. So
Yeah, it is, and I think it's brilliant, and I hope if you haven't listened to the sermon, whoever you're listening, that you will, because I think it's brilliant how Jesus wove these things together in his ministry, and how Luke, who is writing this gospel, this account of Jesus' ministry, he put these three things together in a way that makes it unmistakable.
mhm,
That, oh yeah, it's like three legs of a stool.
mhm,
Like if you were building a stool to go at your counter at home, you could make a four-legged stool, but you can't make a two-legged stool. It's not going to, unless the legs are really big, but like normal stool legs, if it's only got two or one, it's not going to stand up. You need at
mhm.
least three
Yeah,
in order to have a stool that you can sit on and put the weight of your body on.
yeah,
And I think it's true here too. These are kind of like three legs of a stool. You need all three
yeah,
to bear the weight of your life,
yeah,
and meaningfully being involved. So yeah, I think I love how it emerges in the Gospel of Luke, and how these three things are
yeah,
brought together.
yeah. And I love too that it shows um it shows us how all these things are like, I'm trying to think of the right way to say it. It's it's like you can't separate them, because there's a difference between just being around people and being fully known.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I feel like this is in a nutshell what separates Christian community from just like normal social connections we have
Mm-hmm.
in the world, is you can be around people as much as you want and still feel completely alone.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can, if you are in a church, you can serve yourself to death and never be fully known by anybody.
Still be
They
alone.
can know nothing about what you're going through at home, nothing about what you're going through, just personally in your
Yeah.
mind and your
Yeah.
emotions, whatever it may be. And so that's why you have to have all three legs of the stool, is so you can be fully known, because we worship a God who fully knows us, and he wants us to fully know one another, because I mean, that's the only way you can truly
Yeah.
love somebody is if you fully know who they are. And that's what's been the most impactful thing for me over these past couple years is realizing I've always been an outgoing guy. So,
Hmm.
caveat for all of you listening who are
Yeah.
introverts, uh, that's just how I'm
Tucker's an
wired.
extrovert.
I'm an
Yeah.
extrovert.
Yeah.
But so much of my life, I had friends, I was busy doing things with people. I was even serving in ministry early on and I was married.
Hmm.
And there were times where I still felt alone. And it was because I was, not being fully myself even to my wife, but also to the people I was hanging out with and my friends. And
Yeah.
when I realized that God's power shows up when we are boasting about our weaknesses and where we're struggling and we bring those things to light, his power does really show up.
Yeah.
And I've experienced more joy in my life in the past 2 years since I've committed to being dependent on others in relationship, being vulnerable, um, being fully known, and serving with that and learning and all the
Hmm.
things.
Yeah.
It's been the most joy filled
Yeah.
couple years of my life, and so I think all three legs of the stool
Yeah.
can give you that as
Yeah.
well.
All of us.
Yeah, all of us.
So there's the call, and
Mhm.
all of this part of the call to love.
Yeah.
They're all expressions of love within Christian community that we can give and receive. So
Mhm.
let's
Yeah.
follow the call.
Yeah. Let's do it. All right. Well, thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you on next week's podcast.